Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into large language models, or LLMs.
LLMs.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. They're everywhere these days, all over the news.
Definitely.
But we're going to go beyond the hype and really explore their power and how you can actually experience that power firsthand.
Sounds good.
Our guide today is this article, Experience the Power of Large Language Models. It's by Andrew Kagan, the CTO over at Planet Technologies.
Oh, okay.
He put this out on LinkedIn back in May.
Mm,
And man, he covers a lot.
I bet.
I mean, we're talking everything from like the familiar chatbots
Right.
all the way to setting up your own private LLM.
Whoa.
Yeah, right? Like on your own computer.
No way, really. Even on like a laptop.
Even a laptop, apparently.
Right.
That's what he's saying.
That's wild. It's amazing how accessible this tech is becoming.
Right. It's not just for like the Googles and Microsofts of the world anymore.
Not at all.
So we all know the big names, right?
Yeah.
You got your Microsoft Copilot, Google's Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic Claude.
Mm.
But then Kagan mentions this other one, Grok Chat.
Grok, huh?
Yeah, and the way he describes it, mind-blowing, instant responses.
He makes it sound pretty impressive.
It does. Like, almost too good to be true.
Well, there's a reason for all the hype.
Okay, lay it at me.
So Grok, they developed their own hardware, a chip specifically for LLMs.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about the software anymore.
Nope. This is specialized hardware. They call it the Language Processing Unit, or LPU for short.
Where you got it.
And that's what gives it that crazy speed, those instant responses Kagan was talking about.
So that's their secret weapon.
Pretty much. And there's actually another article, let me see, Grok's LPU, a revolutionary leap. It gets deep into the tech behind it all, if you're interested in that.
Definitely can check that out later. But, chatbots, as cool as they are,
Yeah.
they're kind of just the tip of the iceberg, right? So what if you wanted to do more than just chat?
Right.
Kagan talks about private deployment, and that's where things get really interesting.
Ah, now we're talking.
But, what does that even mean?
So private deployment, it basically means running an LLM in your own environment.
Okay.
Not relying on some third-party server like, Google or OpenAI.
So you have more control.
Exactly. Control and security. Imagine you're a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got all this sensitive customer data. You might not want that data going out to some public chatbot.
Yeah, that makes sense. You'd want to keep it under wraps.
Exactly. So you set up your own LLM in your own secure environment.
So that's the motivation, I guess. Control and security over your data.
Definitely.
But how do you even DO that? Kagan throws around terms like data ops, ML ops, dev ops.
Yeah, it gets pretty technical.
It sounds like a lot.
It is. Think of it like this. You know how you can drive a car without understanding how the engine works?
Sure.
It's kind of like that. You don't need to be a mechanic to use an LLM.
Right, but to set one up.
That's where you need that deeper knowledge. It's like building the car itself.
So not exactly plug and play then.
Not quite. But there are options out there, things that cater to different skill levels.
Okay, that's a relief. So what are these options if someone does want to go the private deployment route?
Well, Kagan highlights two main approaches, which are actually quite different.
All right, I'm all ears.
Let's start with Microsoft. They have this solution called AI in a box.
AI in a box. Catchy.
Oh, right. It's basically a bundle of resources and tools, all pre-built for their Azure cloud platform.
So if you're already using Azure...
It's like a one-stop shop. Microsoft handles a lot of the complexity for you.
Sounds convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the advantages of going with this AI in a box thing?
Well, Kagan mentions a few. Faster deployment, which obviously saves time and money. Potential cost savings because you're leveraging Microsoft's infrastructure.
Makes sense.
And also you get that enhanced quality and reliability that comes with Microsoft's expertise.
Okay, so it's like you're getting their stamp of approval.
Exactly. He even suggests it could give businesses a competitive edge.
Interesting. So that's the Microsoft route. What about everyone else? What if you're not tied to Azure?
That's where SkyPilot comes in.
SkyPilot.
Yeah, it's a tool that gives you more flexibility. It works across different cloud providers.
Ah, so you're not locked into just one.
Nope. And when you pair SkyPilot with this library called Ollama,
okay.
you get even more control and customization over your deployment.
So it's kind of like the DIY approach.
It is. Definitely for the more technically inclined, though. People who like to get their hands dirty.
So it's a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Convenience and support with Microsoft, or flexibility and control with this SkyPilot Ollama combo.
Exactly. It really depends on your needs and your comfort level.
Makes sense. But wait, there's more, isn't there? Kagan doesn't stop there. He takes us even further down the rabbit hole.
He does. This is where it gets really wild. He starts talking about deploying an LLM locally, meaning running it on your own computer.
Wait, hold on. You mean like I could have this powerful AI running right here on my laptop?
That's exactly what he's suggesting. And he makes a strong case for it, too.
Okay, I got to hear this. What are the advantages of doing that?
Well, first off, security and privacy. Your data never leaves your machine.
Oh, okay, so no sending it off to some third-party server.
Nope. It stays right there under your control.
I can see the appeal of that, especially with all the data privacy concerns these days.
Right. And then there's cost reduction, no more paying for cloud computing resources.
You're using your own hardware.
Exactly. So it's a huge win for like students, researchers, anyone on a budget.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. But how do you actually set this up? It all sounds pretty intimidating.
Well, Kagan breaks it down into a few different approaches with varying levels of complexity.
Okay, walk me through it.
So the most flexible option is to use this thing called Ollama, which we mentioned earlier.
Right, with Copilot.
Exactly. But in this case, you pair Ollama with a graphical user interface, or GUI for short.
GUI, got it. So what does Ollama do?
Ollama is the engine that powers the LLM. Think of it like the engine in a car. It's compatible with a whole bunch of different LLM models, so it's super versatile.
Right.
But just like you wouldn't want to drive a car without a steering wheel or a dashboard, Ollama needs a user-friendly interface to make it easier to use.
Ah, that's where the GUI comes in.
You got it. And there are a bunch of different GUIs out there, just like there are different types of cars.
Okay, so some are fancier than others.
Exactly. Kagan mentions a few popular ones like OpenWebUI, MSTY, and anything LLM.
Got it. So that's the DIY approach, Ollama plus a GUI. But what if you want something simpler, like an app you can just download and start using?
Kagan recommends checking out LM Studio.
LM Studio.
Yeah, it's this all-in-one application that handles everything for you. Downloads the models, runs the LLM, and gives you a nice interface to interact with it.
Sounds pretty user-friendly.
It is. Kagan even describes it as impressively simple.
Wow, we've gone from complex cloud deployments to simple desktop apps. It's amazing how much variety there is.
Right. It's pretty incredible how accessible this technology is becoming.
But, there's always those hardcore techies out there who like to keep things minimal.
Oh, yeah.
And Kagan doesn't forget about them.
Nope. He mentions that you can actually run Ollama directly from the command line.
Really? So no GI, no fancy interface.
Just you, the command line, and Ollama.
That's hardcore.
Yeah.
But I guess it gives you ultimate control.
It does, if you're comfortable with that kind of environment.
I am not, but
Well.
hey, more power to them.
It's just amazing to me that we can go from chatting with bots online to potentially running an LLM on our own laptops. It's mind-blowing.
It is. And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, right? There's so much more to explore. But we're going to have to save that for next time.
Okay, sounds good.
Because we've covered a lot of ground already. But hopefully this has given you a taste of just how powerful and accessible LLMs are becoming.
Definitely.
And when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into the implications of all this. Stay tuned.
Can't wait. Welcome back. Before we got into all the ways you can actually run these LLMs.
We were talking about Grok and their custom hardware.
Right, their LPU chip.
Yeah, exactly. And how that's like revolutionizing performance.
It's pretty wild to see how the whole tech world is like adapting to this new AI era.
It is.
So we've talked about online chatbots, deploying in the cloud, even running an LLM on your own computer.
Right.
It's a lot. But now I'm kind of wondering about the real world implications of all this. Like, what are the trade-offs? When does it make sense to use one option over another?
Excellent questions. It's important to think about the practical side of things.
For sure.
So let's go back to private deployment for a second,
Right.
whether it's in the cloud or on your local machine.
Mm-hmm.
Why would someone choose that instead of just using like a chatbot that's already out there?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot more work to set up your own LLM.
It can be,
Yeah.
but there are some big reasons why someone might go that route.
Like what?
Well, control is a huge factor. With private deployment, you have total control over the data, the data that's used to train and run the LLM.
Right.
And that's crucial for organizations that are dealing with like sensitive information.
Yeah, like proprietary stuff or confidential customer data.
Exactly. They might not be comfortable sending that data out to some third-party provider.
That makes sense. Data privacy is a big deal these days.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for like businesses and researchers working with confidential info.
But what about the cost? Isn't it expensive to set up your own LLM infrastructure?
It can be, especially for large-scale deployments in the cloud.
Yeah, I imagine that adds up quickly.
Oh, yeah. You got to factor in servers, storage, networking, all the maintenance.
It's basically like building your own data center.
It kind of is. But remember, we talked about running an LLM locally, too, on your own hardware.
Right. No cloud fees if you're using your own laptop.
Exactly. So that can be a lot more affordable.
But is that realistic for most people? Do you need, like, a supercomputer to run an LLM?
Not at all. Actually, the hardware requirements have been going down.
Really?
Yeah. Those advancements we talked about, like Grok's LPU, they're making LLMs more efficient.
So they can run on less powerful machines.
Exactly. And with tools like Ollama and LM Studio, you can even run some LLMs on a decent laptop.
Okay, so it's becoming more feasible for, like, individuals and smaller organizations.
It is. It's not just for the big players anymore.
That's great. But even if the cost and the hardware aren't major barriers, what about the technical know-how?
Right.
We were talking about data ops and MLOps earlier, and honestly, that all sounds pretty daunting.
I get it. It can seem intimidating if you're not, like, a software engineer.
Yeah, exactly.
But the good news is the tools and resources are getting more user-friendly all the time.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Think about it. Even building a website used to be super complicated.
Yeah, you needed to know all this code.
Right. But now there are platforms that make it easy for anyone to build a website.
Drag and drop, point and click.
Exactly. And the same thing is happening with LLMs.
So it's becoming more accessible to people with, like, moderate technical skills.
Absolutely. Especially with options like LM Studio, which Kagan said was really simple.
That's encouraging. There's also that whole community of, like, developers and enthusiasts creating tutorials and stuff.
There is. It's a very active and helpful community.
So you're saying it's not impossible for someone to, like, dive in and start experimenting?
Not at all. And there's a lot of support out there if you need help.
All right, that's good to know. But even with all these advancements, I have to ask, what are some of the, like, the potential downsides or challenges of running your own LLM?
That's a crucial question. One challenge is just keeping up with how fast this field is developing.
It seems like there's something new every day.
There is. New models, architectures, capabilities. It's constantly evolving.
Well, you need to be ready to, like, update your stuff regularly.
You do. It's an ongoing learning process.
It's not like a one-time setup and you're done.
Nope. It's more like a commitment, to learning and adapting.
Okay, so that's one challenge. What else?
Well, security is another big one.
Right, because you're responsible for your own data now.
Exactly. Running an LLM locally can be great for privacy, but it also means you're in charge of security.
You gotta be extra careful.
You do. You need to protect your data and your systems from any vulnerabilities.
It's like owning a house.
Right.
You're responsible for its upkeep and security.
Perfect analogy. So it's a trade-off. More control over your data, but also more responsibility.
Makes sense. Anything else to consider?
Yeah, one last thing. It's really important to understand your use case.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Like, what are you actually trying to do with the LLM? What problems are you trying to solve?
Right.
What kind of performance do you need? What level of accuracy and reliability?
Those are good questions.
Answering those will help you figure out the best way to deploy it,
So it's not just about the tech itself?
Nope. It's about how you're going to use it. It's about fitting the right tool to the right job.
I like that. Fit the tool to the job.
Yeah. And I think that leads perfectly into the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready.
Where we'll look at some specific examples of how LLMs are actually being used out there in the world.
Awesome. Let's do it. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground, what LLMs are, how to run them, the pros and cons.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But now I'm really curious about the so what factor.
Oh.
How are these things actually being used out there in the real world?
Well, they're being applied in so many fields already.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. One area that's really promising is healthcare.
Healthcare, interesting.
Yeah, researchers are using LLMs to analyze medical records.
Okay.
To identify patterns and even develop personalized treatment plans.
So we're talking about LLMs potentially helping doctors make better decisions.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just diagnosis and treatment.
How so?
They can streamline administrative tasks so healthcare workers have more time for patients.
That makes sense.
They can even improve communication between different providers.
So everyone's on the same page.
Right. And there's even potential for LLMs to, provide virtual assistance to patients.
Wow, answering questions, giving support.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really amazing stuff.
It sounds like LLMs could completely change healthcare.
They really could. And that's just one example.
Right. What other fields are being impacted?
Education is another big one.
Education, okay.
Imagine personalized learning experiences for every student.
That sounds incredible. How would that even work?
Well, LLMs can analyze all kinds of student data,
Like grades, test scores.
Yep, even learning patterns to figure out where a student might be struggling.
Oh.
And then they can provide targeted support, help them catch up.
So it's like a personalized tutor?
It is. They can also create interactive learning materials.
Wow, that adapt to the student's progress.
Exactly. Keeping them engaged and challenged at their own pace.
So it's not about replacing teachers with AI.
Right.
It's about giving teachers more tools, making them even better.
Exactly. LLMs can handle a lot of the busy work,
Grading, lesson plans.
Yeah, so teachers can focus on what they do best. Building relationships, fostering creativity.
It's inspiring a love of learning.
It's all about empowering teachers, not replacing them.
This is really exciting stuff. It feels like LLMs can have a positive impact on almost every part of our lives.
They really can, but of course we have to be mindful of the risks too.
Right, because it has powerful technology.
It is.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
We have to make sure it's developed and used responsibly.
Absolutely. Ethically, thoughtfully.
It's up to all of us to shape the future of LLMs, to make sure they benefit everyone.
I completely agree.
And speaking of the future, Kagan ends his article with this thought-provoking question.
Oh, yeah.
He quotes someone who calls LLMs the peanut butter of modern tech.
Peanut butter, huh? Interesting analogy.
And the question is, what's the chocolate that LLMs will combine with to create something truly revolutionary?
That's a good one. I mean, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
The commenter mentions robotics, which is kind of mind-blowing.
It is. Imagine LLMs integrated with robots or virtual reality or augmented reality.
Or blockchain.
It's both exciting and a little scary to think about, right?
It is.
Yeah.
One thing's for sure, LLMs are here to stay.
They are. And they're going to keep shaping the world around us.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
We've just scratched the surface here, but hopefully this deep dive has, piqued your curiosity.
I hope so.
Giving you a sense of what LLMs are all about and why they matter.
It's fascinating stuff, for sure.
No, it's up to you to keep exploring, See where this technology takes us.
I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, keep on learning.
Keep on exploring.